Mario Party Jamboree came out somewhat recently, and it really been making me think about the roster. I feel like they just needed a bigger roster for a while now, so why not make the ultimate Mario Party roster with the whole 50 character slots? And before I start, shout out to my friend Pastel for helping me out with this. You'll hear from him in just a bit. It's pretty obvious that the first 5 characters to be added have to be the only characters that are in every single Mario Party game, other than technically Wario is in advanced, but like, who cares? It's really not Mario Party without any of these characters.
Alongside those five, there are three other characters that have been staples since the beginning. Donkey Kong was the only other playable character in both 1 and 2, but took a break from being playable in 5 up until 10. There's also Daisy and Waluigi, which have been in every game since their arrival in 3, being the only other two characters before Mario Party started having more mixed rosters, with adding and removing characters. Plus, they're like the most iconic Mario characters when it comes to the spin-off games, including Mario Party. Toad also should be brought up despite not being in every game, at least when it comes to being playable. Being added in 5 after being a host in 1 through 4, then removed again in Super Mario Party and Superstars to once again be the host. Toadette also has something similar happen, being in 6, 7, 8, and 10, but weirdly not 9, being removed to be a host as well. Oddly, she was also not in games like DS and Island Tour, but those really don't matter for the making of this roster anyway. Basically, they deserve to be in, and it felt important to separate them because of their removal in Super.
Outside of Toad and Toadette, there are plenty of characters that have been playable and usually removed in later games. Going in order of their additions, first is Boo being added in 5, then being in 6 through 8, and added back in Super and Jamboree. Berta was added in 7, 8, and 9, then removed until oddly Superstars and not Super, as well as being in Jamboree. Dry Bones was added in 7 and 6 and 8, but was removed until Super, and moved again in Jamboree, truly a robbed king. 8, Brett, and Blueberry and Hammerbro, who are not playable in any of their games except Hammerbro, did come back temporarily in Super. Shy Guy was added in 9 and was brought back in Super and Jamboree. Kamek was only playable in 9, but is a host in both Super and Jamboree. Rosalina was added in 10 and is the only character other than that isn't 1 through 4 to never be removed ever. Spike was also added in 10 and wasn't removed until Jamboree. Naturally, I think all of these characters deserve to come back since they were playable.
Super also added in many new characters to the roster, so these are split up just to not overload all of the characters at once. These include Bowser, Bowser Jr., Diddy Kong, Goomba, Montimo, and Pom Pom, who all deserve to be added on the grounds of being playable, even if Diddy Kong and Pom Pom were removed in Jamboree. Also, Pauline can be added here too because she was added in Jamboree.
On to the added characters, the first one that comes to my mind is one missing from a duo, Boom Boom. Admittedly, he's definitely not my first choice, but Pom Pom being playable and not him has always been very weird in my head, especially since he's definitely way more iconic to the franchise. So I think it makes sense for him to be the first character added to our roster. Our next character is a pretty major character in the more recent 2D Mario games, that being Nabbit. He kinda randomly showed up in the new Super Mario Bros. U, but then became playable in Luigi U, and is one of the many playable in Wonder. Despite that, he's at least not in the major spin-off Mario games, and also not in the sports games to my knowledge, which is pretty unfair honestly, so let's give him a spot in this roster.
Some other iconic characters from the Mario series include Luma. While usually with Rosalina, she doesn't have them in Mario Party, so why not let them be in the party as well? I mean, the flying won't be the problem for them, and this includes any other characters who fly, because Boo has been in the series since Mario Party 5. Besides, they are playable in Tennis Aces, so no reason not to add them in. Another character that is pretty iconic is Cappy. I mean, he is literally the main ally of Mario Odyssey. He is pretty important. Not only that, but we really don't get that many 3D game representation. Like, yeah, there's Rosalina and Pauline, but there are plenty of characters across these games, and 2 isn't really enough. So why not add Cappy to the roster?
Going on with the whole adding in 3D Mario characters, we have the Piantas. Being the main inhabitants of Sunshine, it only makes sense to include them. Besides, they're not only playable in Super Mario Sluggers, but tend to be pretty common background characters, including in Mario Party 8 and a minigame in Mario Party 9, as well as some other major games including Mario Kart and Paper Mario, so I think they deserve to be in this roster. Similarly to the Piantas, there's also the Nokis from Sunshine. They're also playable in Super Mario Sluggers and show up as background characters pretty often, and while I wouldn't consider them as iconic as the Piantas, they do work very well in Mario Party. and adding them in will give them a time to shine, so we'll have to get them to the roster as well. Used in the current Mario Party rosters as enemies, including Koopa, Goomba, Shy Guy, and P character. One enemy that is left out is the Piranha Plant, and while technically PT Piranha could be playable, instead I feel like he's giant and I don't think would work very well, especially in the mini games. While Piranha Plants don't walk, just do the Smash Bros thing where and put them in a pipe, or make them one of the walking ones and Runder. Whatever you prefer, you can imagine, but either way, he's being added to this roster.
There are plenty of characters important to specific Mario games, including the Sprixie princesses from 3D World. I mean, 3D World is a pretty major game in the franchise, so why not add something related to the game, right? And also, the green one is in Ultra Smash, so like Nintendo will maybe do it. And how about we add all of them by making the color options, like there is in Mario Kart 8 for some of the characters. And also in the hypothetical game, that would be an option for plenty of characters that have multiple different color schemes, like Yoshi, or Toad, or Shy Guy. By the time this video releases, Mario and Luigi Brothership will have been released, and while we can't add any characters from it to the roster because it was made before the release, why not add a character from the series? So out of those, who should we add? Well, Starlo is a pretty important character to the series, so she is the next member of this roster.
What are some characters in other Mario spin-offs that could be added into this Mario Party roster? Oh, how about the Queen Bee from Galaxy? And yes, I know I said PT Piranha was too big, but that's only because of his head and body making him a little too tall and just not working super well in a way, while Queen Bee could be similar to Bowser. We know that in Mario Kart 7 where she is playable, and that is another character added to the roster.
You know, Yoshi has an entire franchise in a way, and there really isn't much love for this series in Mario games. The only things there really is Yoshi's Island in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and there is Poochie being a playable character in Mario Kart Tour. Well then it only makes sense to add him to the roster. And I'm sure there are ways to make him fit into the minigames, so that won't end up being a problem. So speaking of other series relating to the main Mario characters, there is a Donkey Kong series. Of course, Diddy Kong is in Mario Party, but he isn't the only other Kong in other spin-offs because Funky Kong is not only in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but also very iconic in Mario Kart Wii. And hey, let's go ahead and add Dixie Kong because while she isn't really in Mario spin-offs, she is one of the main Donkey Kong characters along with the others.
If this is supposed to be more of an ultimate Mario Party roster, why not add some of the previous house characters? Of course, Mario Party 1 through 4 as well as 9 and onwards have mostly Toads, but some other general characters in the franchise are already in the roster. And also 5 has the stars, who would not work out. But let's go ahead and add Brighton and Twyla from Mario Party 6. Toadworth could be added, and he is not only a host, but is a major character as well. And he is all technically, but he can work, I'm sure. Finally is MC Ballyhoo from Mario Party 8, and he would have his hat as well, so that's 4 more characters added to this roster.
50 characters is quite a lot, so how about we fill up some space with collab characters similar to Mario Kart 8. These characters include Link, Isabelle, the Villagers, and Inklings. Of course, these are the other major Nintendo franchises, being Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Splatoon. Also, the Villager and Inkling genders will work similar to color variety, plus you could add in Octolings with the Inklings if you want. Then for another slot, how about we add Kirby? I mean, he fits in well, and also who doesn't like Kirby? 5 characters added to the roster with that.
Second, there's still one more slot left. Who could that be? Whoa, looks like Hoopcat has finally returned after being written out of the Mario Party series as a whole after 7. I mean, why not let him in? Besides, he is the only character that was in a previous Mario Party that we haven't brought up. With that, we have a full roster of 50 characters. Isn't necessarily perfect. Well, no. I'm sure there are many different ways you could create a 50 character roster for this series. We would absolutely love to hear your opinions down in the comments below. Anyways, before I go, once again I'd like to thank Rachel for helping me out with this video and the roster. It would have been a lot harder if I did it by myself.